Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Designing the Best You. And this is a podcast where we help high performing professionals and purpose driven leaders step fully into their next chapter with clarity, strategy, confidence, and overall health. Okay. Today, we are talking about how to absolutely nail a senior level interview without faking, over prepping, or playing small. Now, if you're not at the senior level, don't worry. You can still listen in and you can take some of these tips and use them to get to the senior level. Little tidbit there. So here's the thing. When you're at a senior level or executive level, interviews are not about ticking boxes. They're really about alignment, energy, and leadership presence. So, we're going to talk about how you can show up, stand out, and own the room, baby. Okay? Who's in? Let's do this. So, the first thing I want you to realize is you need to lead with clarity. People follow leaders, not a job history. Right? How many times have you guys walked into a new company and you're like, "Oh, you have a new whatever, CFO, or you have a new director of marketing," and you're like, "So what? Can they lead us? Can I follow them?" Right? And that's in the back of your mind. So if you're a senior leader, you've held several big titles. Okay. You don't just jump from out of college to a big senior level, right? You've held titles. But here's the truth. Your title doesn't speak for you. You can say someone's a director of marketing and they've hit some targets. Okay, yeah, we expect that. But you got to lead with clarity. You have to tell your team this is what we're doing and this is kind of how we're doing it. You got to But this means you've got to craft in your interview a clear, confident value statement, something that answers something along the lines of, what do I bring to the table that others don't? Now, I know that's a very basic question, should be very simple, but it can be challenging, right? But I want to give you an example because I love examples and you guys do too. So here's an example of what you would say if someone asked you, what do you bring to the table? Well, you know what? I'm a transformational VP of sales and I have a 15-year track record of turning underperforming regions into top revenue drivers. My key focus is always people first leadership that drives consistent, scalable growth. That's not a long-winded career summary. And here's a hint. You can use that in any conversation. Okay? You can use it when you're standing up at a company doing a presentation. You can use it in front of a client. You can use it in an interview. You can use it when you're doing a little LinkedIn message introduction, right? It's a clear, punchy position, right? And this is how senior leaders differentiate themselves, not with a resume walkthrough or verbal vomit, but with vision. Okay? Because then it leads to, well, how? What do you do? How do you do it? Right? So that kind of goes into the next section. You have to be able to, excuse me, you have to be able to tell strategic stories, not a list of responsibilities, guys. Okay. When you're sitting around a campfire, think about summer nights and you're sitting around a campfire, someone's listing off a checklist. Are you going to remember that stuff? No. But if they are able to tell a story, man, you're at least going to remember parts of the story or at least the core storyline, right? And at your level, no one's going to ask you whether you've managed teams or you've hit targets. They're going to assume you have, right? If you're at a director level or VP level or presidential level, guess what? You've done those things. What they want at a company is your ability to navigate the complexity, because at those levels, there's a lot of complexity, right? They want to see if you can lead under pressure. And here's the big one, if you can create momentum in ambiguity. So, one of my favorite questions, we're going to walk through a method I like to use. Some of you guys use the CAR method or the STAR method. I use the CAR method. So, the CAR method is challenge, action, and result. Okay. So, one of my favorite questions to walk through this with is tell me about a challenge you faced, right? So, we're going to do that nice little example together. Yay. So, you guys have something. Okay. So, when you're in an interview and they say, tell me about a time you had to lead through a big change. Using the CAR method, the first step is challenge. So you're going to present the challenge. Here it goes. When I stepped in my previous role as VP of operations, the company had just gone through a rapid acquisition. Like we doubled our size overnight. The morale was low, systems were disconnected, and we were missing delivery SLAs by 30%. Our board was incredibly concerned, right? That's a challenge. That's a problem, right? Now the action step, the A, here we go. I immediately initiated a 90-day stabilization plan. First, I met with frontline managers across both the legacy and acquired teams to uncover friction points. Then I created a task force combining leaders from both organizations to realign KPIs, integrate systems, and rebuild a unified operations roadmap. I also hosted biweekly town hall meetings to bring transparency and regain trust because that's important. Then you have the result. And here's the deal. Within 4 months, we restored our on-time delivery to 97%. We reduced the operating costs by 18%. And even more importantly, one of my favorite things to focus on, employee engagement scores jumped 22%. It wasn't about just fixing the logistics. What it was restoring belief in leadership after a major change. Now, guys, I like to add a little bonus at the end of some of these cars, okay? Here's the bonus for this one, okay? That experience reinforced for me that during uncertainty, clear communication and co-creation of solutions builds more sustainable outcomes than any top-down mandate could. Think about that. When you're at an executive level, okay, this response demonstrates executive level thinking, system level problem solving, strategic delegation, right? It wasn't all about I. It was we. I created a team. I brought these people together and created a task force for them to go out, right? It also showed empathy and a strong connection to business impact. When you care about people, right? And you bring people together and you communicate clearly to them what we need to do and really care about how they're feeling in all this, the results are going to come, right? But you guys as senior leaders have to communicate that. And this is where it's so incredibly important, okay? For the next step is you have to have that executive presence, not what a lot of people think is I'm sitting in my office, I am sitting here, I'm having meetings, I am blah, blah, blah. No. Or when you walk in the room, shh, everyone quiet, shh, right? No. An executive presence, and any one of you guys at any level can do this, okay? An executive presence equals a calm, confident clarity. I think back to some of my bosses that I've had, and one stood out very clearly to me, and he was at 2 different companies with me. And he never got riled up. Rarely. I think I saw him like twice in like the 6 years get angry. He was very calm and confident. He always spoke very clearly. And that's what you need. It's executive presence is not about being the loudest in the room. It's about grounded confidence. It sounds like, let me pause and think about that. You know what? I'd approach that in 2 ways. Here's what I know and what I like to learn first about the situation. You're not there to impress. And I hear this all the time when I'm talking to some of you senior leaders out there. You're not here to impress with jargon or buzzwords. You're not having complicated, words. You're building trust through calm, clear thinking. Presence, guys, think about when someone leaves the room after being in contact with you physically and vice versa. How do you feel when an executive is in the room? Your presence is felt in how you listen, how you pause, and how you respond when you don't have the perfect answer. That's leadership energy, and it's magnetic, y'all. Okay? So another part of the job in an interview or any kind of communication process is connecting your past to their future. Okay? So what is one of the smartest things that you can do in a senior interview? Anyone? Oh, this is a podcast. I'm talking to you. Okay. So, one of the smartest things you can do in an interview is translate your experience into their vision, which, by the way, means you need to know their company pretty well before you get in that interview. Okay. So, instead of just talking about what you've done, which is what so many people do, you've got to ask questions. And a really good question is, how does my experience align with where you're trying to take the business? And then, this is the big part, you need to bridge the gap. So, for example, you know what? I saw that you're looking to expand into digital channels. At my last role, we built a DTC model from scratch, and I would love to bring that perspective here. So, this is how you move from a candidate to a strategic partner. Okay. And that's what executive interviews are really all about, guys. Okay. So, you've got to ask like a peer, not an applicant. Okay. So, when they ask, and everyone does, do you have any questions for us right at the end of the interview? This is not a filler. This is literally your moments to shine, to flip the script, and to show that you belong at the table. So here's three questions. I have a list, a ton of them. So if you're in my coaching and stuff like that, I give you a lot more. But here's some good ones for you. Here's a question to ask. What's the biggest challenge your leadership team is navigating right now? That's one. Second one, where is the organization trying to grow and what's blocking it? Right? What's the bottleneck? And three, what does success look like in this role at 90 days and a year? Those are valid questions, right? These are peer level questions. They show that you have strategic thinking, curiosity, and confidence. Guys, this is the epitome of designing the best you, our podcast title, by thinking and speaking like the leader that you were designed to be. Okay, so let's do a little recap here. Let's lock it in. Okay, here's the 5 things I want you to remember before your next executive interview or any interview. Okay, I originally created this for executives, but as I'd sit here and talk through it, I'm like, you know what, this goes for everyone. So the first thing is lead with a clear, value-driven intro. Second one is tell stories that reveal strategy and leadership using that CAR method. Third one, show presence through calm, confident, clear communication. It's like 4 C's, right? The fourth one, bridge your experience to their future goals. Incredibly important. And then you ask questions, the fifth one, that reflect your executive mindset. Guys, you're not there to get the job, quote, get the job. You're there to offer solutions, align with their vision, and lead change. Lead the change. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So I want you to remember this. The goal isn't just to land a title that pays more and blah, 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 right? Everyone's got to get paid, right? We get that, okay? It's to step into a role where your gifts, your talents, your leadership, and your purpose align. If you don't feel that in your gut, don't do it, right? So if this episode sparks something for you, send it to a fellow leader who's in transition. And if you want my free executive interview prep sheet with sample answers, opening lines, power questions, I want you to DM me on LinkedIn the word interview. Okay. I'll also put a link in the show notes so you can go ahead and click on that as well. But until next time, I want you guys to keep leading, keep refining, keep speaking your executive presence, and keep on designing the best you.